Hi to everyone. Happy to be here with you. My name is Federico. I'm a farmer in Bologna, so the hills around the city of Bologna, where we have an estate of almost 15 hectares of vineyards. And then we also have other crops, mainly a vegetable garden, and some animals, and cereals and other things. Actually, where we are located now used to be the farm of my mom's family, and my grandfather, the family used to make also wine, even if in small scale, and but it was a farm with doing different things. Then, when my grandparents passed away, the property was divided by between among the nine sons and daughters, and so my mom remained with this main house, this country house, and of course we didn't have any idea of being farmers again. So I made different studies. My family, when I was 3 years old, moved to Brazil, where I grew up, and so I became an engineer and then a business consultant. But I was really passionate about wine, since that in my family, people used to drink wine, but also travel for wine, even when it wasn't trendy as it is today. So my grandfather used to go to France to visit Burgundy and all the regions of very well known for quality of wine. So when I was in college, I decided to become a sommelier, started to work to have some revenue while I was studying, and then that was something that it was my passion. That's it. Then in 2005, I had the chance to buy some vineyards nearby, so in the same hill, just 2 miles from here. And so with my family, we decided to invest in those vineyards and start again something that was interrupted for probably 30 years almost. And so small area. We are, as I said, in Colli Bolognesi, place unknown, with just very small wineries. The average of the production is around 20,000 bottles per producer, and probably we are not more than 30. So, and also we don't have a brand that's well known. So when I started, the winery had already a market, but it was focused on the city of Bologna. So we had it was concentrated around 95% in the city, and then 5% in other parts of the region, of the same region, so in Emilia Romagna. And then I was really, it was hard to think how a winery in that area could survive and could be, let's say, economically, could stay alive, I would say. And so the idea was to try to find out if there was a real potential of this place, because this place was known and we had evidence of, this hill specifically. That's the hill with a small hamlet in the top called Oliveto. If it was, and we had evidence of great wines from this hill. And so we wanted to know if it was really something that it could be hidden, because of course all the wineries here in the 90s started to replant the vineyards with international varieties, and started with having enologists in the cellar. So all the tradition that we had, it was almost completely lost to have a standardized product. And so I gave to myself 5 years to find out if could be potential here. And the way of doing that, it was starting with biodynamic farming, because the idea it was to have a soil that could be alive, and so could fertilize itself year after year, and so that I could have vineyards with deeper roots, that they could find all the nourishments from that place. And so, not saying that would be a better, the best grape that I could have, but for sure it would be a grape that was linked to this place. And of course, then started also in the vinification part. So, giving up the idea of having an enologist and using selectivists and everything to have a wine that was really a picture of each vineyard, of each vintage. That was the idea in the beginning. And so we started in that way. Of course, at the beginning, we lost a lot of clients. So the clients of the previous owner of the winery. And people in town thought that we were crazy. And of course, we started to having, fortunately, we had started to have new customers from abroad, mainly. And so that's how it started. And then in a certain moment, we decided to not invest just in vineyards, but we wanted to have closed cycle in the to have a closed cycle in the farm. And so we started to introduce animals. So we have pigs from this old breed called the Mora Romagnola, to do cereals, and a vegetable garden, collaborating with restaurants. That's a small introduction.
Great. So I think we'll show the video now.
Okay, cool. So I try to comment a little bit. Those are scenes from today. So that they were done, the video were done this morning. So it was exactly what we have done today. So this is where we are located. In the background, you have Bologna. Those are the hills and the main vineyards with Vigneto grape. That's probably it's not the most important grape, but I would say for sure it's a grape that's very distinctive in our place. Today we were harvesting part of Vigneto, and then in this case is Barbera. Everything, as you can see, it's hand-picked in the small baskets. Here it's quite hot normally. Today it wasn't that bad, but normally we reach, I don't know, 30, 35 Celsius degrees. How much it is? 95, 50, 100?
Yeah, but 94, 95.
Yeah, 95 Fahrenheit. And so everyone that works with us, most of them have already worked in the harvest with us in the past years. They come here and we start very early in the morning. Normally we are starting at 6:30, and by noon everything's finished. So the idea is to try to work in a better way, but also to have grapes that are not that hot. Anyway, the baskets will be put in a container, refrigerator, for 1 day. I mean, for one day. So then we will process the grape the next day, so that we can have it at a decent temperature. Because even if we are harvesting in the morning, probably we have already, as I said, around 30 Celsius degrees, and so that will be very, very too hot to do not use after temperature control. This is our vegetable garden. It's now almost 1.5 hectares. We are now serving 5 different restaurants. The idea here is to try to make culture out of our vegetable garden. So in terms of varieties, and how we do that, we try to avoid of being client and suppliers with the rest with the chefs. So we decide together what we plant, what we will plant, what will so then harvest, and so there is a commitment so that they try to use everything that we have or that we have planted together. We decided together. So that means that they cannot choose and they cannot shop whatever they want. We know a quantity that they subscribe every week, and then we are free to deliver them as much as we can. So with the diversity that we have. Then we also have those little babies that are Mora Romagnola pigs. It's an old breed, black hair pigs. They stay free range. So, and the idea is that a farm should have always animals. Going back a little bit about the garden, other point that's really important is that with the chefs, we ask them to come and harvest with us at least once a month, so that we can have feedbacks and develop new ideas together. The idea is to have a farm to table that is real, where the table is really driven by what is in the garden. In certain moments, of course, we also have, since we do not use herbicides, we do have a lot of wide herbs. And so we started also to forage those herbs, not just in the vegetable garden, but also outside. The bushes around us. Other point is you're seeing a lot of different types of tomatoes. The idea is to cultivate and emphasize the biodiversity. So again, the restaurants, they have to try to use in their dishes as many varieties as they can. That's a little bit the idea. From the pigs, we mainly have get a mortadella. That's a provocative mortadella. It's an open project. So to try to influence other mortadella makers to do it in a better way. So with better meat, with animals that are well treated, and with also way of cooking it. I would not say in a gourmet version, but I would say for sure in a more respectful and more interesting way. This is today why we were starting to process the vinification of Vigneto. So here we are distemming the grapes that went to those concrete tanks for, in this case, was 1 night of skin contact. So then, of course, we open after 1 night, or 24 hours more or less. We separate then the juice, the must, from the skins. And the fact of using more and more skin contact, in our case, in a traditional way, so just 1 night, 2 nights, so very short period. It was very traditional in the past, and that helps a lot in the spontaneous fermentations, because of course the must will be a little bit more dirty, I would say, but for sure you have more yeast and then nourishment from them in the must. So the fermentations goes very, very, very smooth, and also you don't need any sulfites to use. So it's a lot easier. what else? We also macerate in Georgian Kvevris for longer time. But most of our production in the white ones are just short skin contact of 1 day or a couple of days. And mainly it's done in concrete tanks. We prefer concrete tanks instead of other materials, or I would say the materials that I prefer are the ones that are a little bit more natural, like wood and terracotta, so and clay. Of course, they are a little bit invasive. They can be invasive, and so that's why it's important that in this case, who makes the wine to make it in a way that you cannot feel that invasiveness. No, invasive, yeah. And so a good option is also the concrete tanks, where we have a little bit more of inertia in terms of temperature. So when the fermentation starts, they will heat up in a slower pace compared to, for example, a stainless steel. But we also use a lot of wood, especially for the red wines, where we do longer macerations. Of course, we just harvested today the Barbera. That was the first, right? So we didn't have any scene about maceration of the reds now. And also we use some, as I said, some amphoras. We just buried another amphora here just beside me. I'm gonna show you. That's an overlook about the winery. The painted concrete tanks are the ones with the Posca. Posca, it's non-vintage wine made with this old technique called Vino Perpetuo. So the Posca Bianca, that one, is started in 2011, and since then it has been topped up with the new vintage. So now we have 90 different vintages in the Posca Bianca. The Posca Rossa, that's that one, started even before. So in 08, so we have already more than 11 vintage there. So now we are getting in where we just rack out all the red wines from the big botti, so the big wooden barrels, to start the fermentation, hopefully, and the skin contact of Barbera, Negretto mainly. That are the grapes that we have. I didn't talk about the grapes that actually are in each Posca. So we have the Posca Bianca, where we have mainly Pignoletto, but also Albana, Alionza, and Malvasia. But we also have a memory of the, I'm gonna flip it. But we also have a memory of the varieties that we don't have anymore, like Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. Same thing for the version Rossa, so Posca Rossa, with mainly, we still have a good part of Cabernet Sauvignon there, but we are increasing year after year the Barbera and the Negretto. The Posca also has that thing of being a little bit more, as I said, it also the change, it's always in a slower pace. Malvasia here, and then there is another one here. Those are around, they should have around 20,000 liters, and we still have 4 more up in the winery. So we are using more and more. We have been using them for almost 10 years, but we just use it the wines, in blends, especially in the Posca Bianca in the past. And now we have the M&Ms. That's the new one of the versions of the sui lieviti that has half of it made from Malvasia, from one of those fields. So, and here where we are located, it's where we have the room. So where we have a kind of a bed and breakfast, and where we host people that come here for tourists. Now we have also some people that come and help us also while we are harvesting. Carl, let me know.
Yeah. That's great. I actually, if people have questions, if they could quickly ask now. I actually briefly got kicked out of the room. So yeah. Oh, so here's a question from Maddie. So in terms of the taste of specific, do you notice the vintage / vineyard sites in the Posca wines, or basically, is there a way to pick that out, or whether the Posca wines are sort of a larger expression of the entire estate?
I didn't get exactly. So what it means is that if it is, it's affirmative. If it is a version of, I didn't understand. Sorry, Carl.
Yeah. So just that, in regards to all the different elements that go into Posca, it is. Do you notice specific elements of vineyard sites or vintages, even in something like the Posca wines, which are non-vintage and not site specific, not single vineyard? Can you notice the influence?
The influence of mixing them together? I didn't get
the influence of like basically, like if you have the grotto from the grotto, like can you feel something from grotto in the Posca if it were to
yes,
be mixed?
Okay, sorry. Yes. So yes, I mean that every time that we make an addition, so that we top up with, it's normally a wine that comes from a certain vineyard with a certain vinification, and so it's also amazing how much the influence you feel, not immediately, but after maybe 1 or 2 weeks, when all the wine can blend itself, and you are shocked of maybe you just added 2%, 3% of that wine, but you feel then after in the complexity as a new shade, a new perspective of that wine. But what I have to say, it is also that we have created in time something like a mother that becomes more complex every time that we top up more. And so it is that we feel the less things that we put on in the influence, but at the same time it gets its own characteristic stronger more and more. Did I answer a little bit?
Yeah, that's great. And actually, there's another question continuing on the Posca.
Yeah.
Someone was wondering about the Posca tanks. Can you explain how you do the blending and the specific tanks that are used for it, and just sort of the process that you do for building the Posca?
Yeah. So the Posca, those tanks are in concrete, and we have 4 of them, so 2 for the reds and 2 for the whites, of 10,000 liters each. Actually, now 2 of the whites it's not full at all, so we are now relocate part of the second tank in another tank that's a little bit smaller. But fortunately, if the vintage will be as it seems very good, we'll recover also the second tank. The idea it is that, so every time what I do it is, okay, I decide how big it will be the batch that will be bottled. So, for example, I decide that it's maybe 1,000 bottles, so to be easier, or maybe 650 liters. So that means 1,000 bottles, so 650 liters. And so what I will do is, out of those 20,000 liters, I will rack out and so to bottle, and then to avoid oxidation, I will top up with another wine that I will decide from the ones that I have in the cellar at that moment. So may have a Malvasia, for example, and that I will use if I want to add the aromatic part, or because of the tannins of the skin contact, a wine that was macerated. It could be the Malvasia, but it could be also a Vigneto for a couple of days, or an Albana made also in amphora. Or maybe a wine with a high acidity and mainly with very fresh, as it could be an Lionza, or also maybe a Vigneto with early harvested, and maybe without any skin conquer, for example.
That's great. Another quick question was, just in regards to this vintage versus others, is this a particularly early harvest time for you over other years, or has the heat affected other elements of it?
So not really, to be honest. It was supposed to be more or less in the same, I would say, similar to last year, for example. But at the end, it was a little bit anticipated, mainly because we have a drop of the acidity quite fast. And so we decided to anticipate a little bit, because since, of course, we will not correct the acidity of the wines. So we decided to hurry up and start a little bit earlier than what we thought at the beginning. But I mean, probably 4 or 5 days, no, not a lot more. So yes, it was anticipated just at the end because of this fact. Why? I'm trying to figure out why, but because also the sugar is not that high, even if the ripeness of the grapes are quite good. It's that I think that this year we had a very good and soft, I would say, weather. So it was hot, but it wasn't hotter than other years, other vintage. And also we had a lot of small rains, distributed over the summer. And so I think that with high production that we are seeing in the plants, probably we had a little bit of the grapes got a little bit of water, so that means that a little bit lower sugar, but also lower acidity. So that's why we decided to anticipate at the end.
Great. And one last question from Josefa is there a difference between in either the process or otherwise between the sui liviti and col fondo?
No. Most of the col fondo are actually what we call in Italy rifermentati. That's important, and I like to say that. It's not a pet nut. Remember, it's not a pet nut, because what happened in the past in Italy, and what's happening again, fortunately, in the northern of Italy, so the Prosecco area, so the Veneto, Emilia-Romagna, but also Oltrepò Pavese, and also in certain other regions used to have frizzante wines, so sparkling wines. It was a second fermentation that happened after bottling after the winter. So the wine used to rest, to decant in the cellar during the winter time, so with the cold temperature. So they had the chance to clean themselves. So a pet nut is a wine that finished directly the first fermentation, directly in the bottle, So just after the harvest. In our case, the harvests were especially later than they are now. And so that means that the wines here, it was quite normal that they stop the fermentation by themselves, and so remaining slightly sweet. And then people after the winter, so the wine that was cleared itself, the wine was bottled around March, normally, just before Easter. And then with the first hits, with the first warm temperatures, of course not being filtrated, these started to consume the residual sugar, and the bubbles will remain trapped in the bottle. So it's something in the middle of a pet nuts and a champenoise method, but of course it's not really a champenoise because there is no addition of sugar and there is no addition of any yeast. And normally, but not always, normally the addition was to do not disgorge the wines. So the wines remain on the lees, so sur lie, sui lieviti, or col fondo. That means more or less the same thing.
Perfect. I mean, I think that's questions from everyone. We know that you're busy in the middle of harvest, so
now it's late. We also had a shower, so.
Okay, well, you're busy nonetheless, so we appreciate you taking time to fill us in on everything, and it's good to see you. And yeah, good luck with the rest of harvest, and hopefully we'll all get to see each other soon.
I hope really soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederico.
Okay. Thank you. Hope to have you here soon.
Yeah.
Bye.